referendum designed to protect all things Swiss actually have a negative impact on the economy? Joining me in the studio to discuss is Thierry Boitelle. Thierry, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Monica, for inviting me here.
No problem at all. Now, Switzerland really came into the limelight because of this result on the referendum. Some people say that Switzerland might actually lose its access, its privileged access to the European single market as a result to reintroducing quotas on immigration. But what do you think? Does Switzerland really have more to lose than it has to gain here?
Yes, I think that's right. Switzerland is risking a lot by accepting this referendum, and the access to the European market is one of the things. There's numerous bilateral agreements binding Switzerland to the EU. As you said, it's the biggest trading partner of Switzerland. And the risks are really on the Swiss side. By putting reintroducing quota, you're putting at risk the free movement of people. That agreement basically has to fall, but there's a lot of other agreements attached to that. And you're also waving a flag to Brussels saying, we don't want to be that much integrated with the EU anymore. And there, Switzerland actually has a lot to lose.
Now, on that note, officials had said that the government may make concessions to the EU with regards to other negotiations which are going on, perhaps be it corporate taxation or bank client data, the sharing of that. Now, what about in your industry? How do you think it might affect you and also your peers?
Yeah, maybe just on the first point, these concessions. In fact, Switzerland has already agreed to make these concessions before this vote against immigration. So Switzerland has been negotiating with the EU for many years already on these topics. And I think those negotiations have taken place in a sort of a good atmosphere. That atmosphere is now deteriorated, and the leverage that the Swiss negotiators have vis-à-vis Brussels has become limited. So I think, it had already, the discussions were already having an impact on Switzerland. Exchange for information has an impact on the financial industry here. The corporate tax reform is impacting Swiss companies and international companies being here. And now on top of that, we have this immigration issue. And I think it's a very good approach from the government to say we will make more concessions perhaps, and we will be very accommodating to Brussels in order to improve the climate. But the fact is that Switzerland has little to offer in those negotiations and a lot to ask from Brussels.
And also, what do you make of the suggestion, Thierry, that the EU could use Switzerland as an example for the likes of Britain as in a bid to deter them for entering into their own negotiations?
Yeah, it's clear. I don't know if Brussels wants to set an example with the Swiss, and it's not something Brussels created. It's the Swiss people who created the problem that we're facing now. But the response from Brussels is indeed limited by internal considerations. There's other member states who might want to put restrictions on immigration as well. And I think that means that Brussels has very little leeway to accommodate the Swiss in the upcoming negotiations. Brussels will take a very firm standpoint, and it will say it's one of the pillars of the European Union, the free movement of people. And I don't see how there is a solution to that issue. I don't see what the result will be of those discussions with the EU, because many things that Switzerland needs to propose because of the referendum will likely be refused by Brussels.
In that note, Switzerland has 3 years to sort of write this into law, but how strictly it does so will obviously be watched very closely by the EU. So when do you think these new sanctions will actually begin to be felt, do you think?
I don't think you could really speak about sanctions, but there's going to be consequences because of this vote. And I think the Swiss have an interest, and the government understands that, to act quickly now. So I think we'll be seeing some very concrete proposals this year, coming out this year, and being discussed in Parliament, and perhaps up for another popular vote. And it's in the interest of Switzerland to create clarity still this year. Now, Brussels will wait. Will simply wait what comes out of Switzerland. There is this 3-year delay. Brussels will watch and see what is happening in Switzerland, and it will act accordingly.
Now, while not specifying any specific sanctions, or to use a better word, but Barroso did say that it could hurt people's right to live and work in Switzerland, and also companies could have certain consequences that they might encounter as well. But how far-reaching do you think these implications may be?
I think it could be very far-reaching. If no new agreements are going to be made between Bern and Brussels, it means that Swiss people can no longer live freely and move freely within the EU. It means that Swiss students cannot go abroad for a master's abroad. Young PhD candidates cannot do a PhD in the European Union. Swiss companies, on the other hand, will not be able to recruit the talent that they need on a large European labour market. So it's going to have very severe implications if no proper solutions are found in the short term.
Well, Thierry, a very interesting topic. We could talk for hours on it, but we'll leave it there for just now. Thank you so much for coming in and discussing it with us.
Thank you for inviting me, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all from Thierry and myself for the moment. Please do keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV for all the latest interviews and, of course, today's press review. Goodbye for now.